Messi. Oh, Messi! He overpowered Edwin van der Sar. For the 3 points. Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
Football has changed, and maybe that's a good thing. Faster and stronger players, smarter managers and coaching staff, perfect quality pitches. Everything is better, at least it is on paper. But if everything is better, why does it still feel like something is missing? Because it does feel different. It's not just how the game looks, it's the emotion we would feel, the connections fans would have with their teams, the way fans lived for the match day. Watching football was a thing you'd look forward to all week. But now, for a lot of us, that feeling just isn't there anymore. And that's what brings me to the one question I can't stop thinking about. Did football already peak and we just didn't realise it at the time? And as the famous meme says, has the game actually gone?
Gone, the game's gone.
Football used to feel better. And no, that's not just a dramatic statement. That's how it genuinely felt. There was definitely more of a connection between fans and players, between clubs and communities. To make sense of how football has evolved emotionally and tactically, let's break it down into 3 rough eras. 1970s to 1990s. Football was gritty, baggy kits, muddy pitches, defenders who would smoke at half time. Players like Maradona, Pelé and George Best were icons, but they weren't filtered by PR teams or media training. The game was completely unpredictable. 2000s to 2010s. Tactics leveled up, and for many people, including myself, this was the peak era of football. Mourinho's Chelsea, Guardiola's Barca, Wenger's Arsenal. We got the rise of Messi and Ronaldo, the emotional Champions League nights, Istanbul comebacks, Iniesta at Stamford Bridge, even though, as Drogba said,
Free from Norway is the strong.
It was still dramatic, but the game was getting smarter. 2020s to now. Football today is faster, more physical, more structured. Players are systems first. The talent is still there. Bellingham, Yamal, Mbappe, but for many fans, something feels different, maybe even lost. Up until the mid-2010s, there was no social media. No fail compilations, no agendas built for likes and retweets. Now it feels like players are judged in clips, not in their careers as a whole. One bad touch becomes content, one off game becomes a viral meme, and somehow all of that strips the game of its magic. Of course, some of that feeling comes from nostalgia, and nostalgia is powerful. Psychologists say it tricks your brain into filtering the past. As well as remembering things, you also remember the way it made you feel. Your brain literally lights up more when it recalls emotionally charged memories. So yeah, maybe things weren't always better, they just felt better. But if we are being honest, the culture around football was different. As many times as I've mentioned it on this channel, those old Nike adverts were special. One of my personal favourites is the Nike POV advert, Take It to the Next Level. The entire thing is shot from your perspective and tells a story as if you are the player who's made it as a professional, sharing the pitch with some of the greatest players of all time. It's one of those adverts that's been done so well where it almost feels real, like a dream you had as a kid. Even watching it now, and it still holds up as one of the greatest adverts of all time. And then there was that Brazil Joga Bonito advert. If you're a football fan, then you probably know the one. The players are in the changing room before the match, casually pinging the ball around. The vibes and everything just look so good. Ronaldinho flicking the ball off the wall, Ronaldo smiling. They make it look so fun and so effortless. This was peak storytelling, and it feels like it's been years since we've had one of these iconic adverts on our screens. Even things like Match of the Day. I wouldn't go a week without missing Match of the Day, and now I can't even remember the last time I watched it. Then you had Soccer AM. You'd wake up on a Saturday, see the freestylers doing skills, watch the skills of the week, see the players and fans having a laugh, and it just made football feel fun. Everything around the game at that time helped build up that feeling. And maybe that's why, for so many of us, those days still feel like the peak. For those of us that lived through and experienced the classic Barclays era, it just had a different energy. The graphics like the old Sky Sports logo, the theme music, Brexit tackles flying in, iconic games like the 4-4 draws at Anfield, Super Sundays, players like Drogba, Gerrard, Rooney, Henry, all in their prime. Games felt competitive but in a raw type of way, and rivalries meant so much more. The Premier League didn't feel global in the way it does now. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, it's up to you to decide. And then there was La Liga at a similar time, delivering arguably the most iconic rivalry football has ever seen. Messi and Ronaldo. Two completely different players that had the whole world watching when they would go head to head. For over a decade, and still to this day, fans are still going at it arguing who is better than the other. Barcelona vs Real Madrid never felt like a regular fixture. You would plan your entire weekend around El Clasico. This was an era where it felt like football was hitting on every level. And even if you argue it wasn't perfect, it just felt right. There's no arguing that the game today is faster than it's ever been. Tactically smarter, athletically sharper, players are trained from as young as 5 to press, rotate, recover and repeat. Everything is just so much more refined now. There's so much more data to analyse that it makes sense that the game will continue to evolve. Systems are constantly being drilled into the minds of players. XG, touch maps, even GPS vests. Managers now have to be so much more focused on tactics or else they simply won't be able to compete. And everyone is noticing this. Take for example this quote from an interview with Argentina's manager, Lionel Scaloni, who claims that this obsession with analysis strips players of their instincts and natural talents, a trait that made football truly feel alive. The fact is though, all this data analysis and changes to the game work. It's hard to deny the quality of the game has improved, even if you believe players in the past were more talented than the players we have today. But here's the thing, with all the structure, all the planning, something else got lost along the way. The personality and unpredictability of the game. Nowadays you'll watch a team build an attack and it feels like you already know what's coming. Cut back, tap in, reset, repeat. It's efficient, but it's predictable. The wild volleys, the last minute screamers, the defenders who dribble for no reason, those moments are so much harder to find. There's now a whole generation of fans who don't even watch games. They watch highlights or short clips. One mistake and you're labelled a fraud. One off game and you're called washed. It's a never-ending loop of clips, fail comps and engagement bait. And because of that, the connection between fans and players fades. You can still love the sport, you can still be amazed by the quality, but that deep emotional pull, the one that made football feel personal, is so much harder to find now. Even in today's game, however, you still get moments that make the world stop. Argentina vs France in the World Cup final, one of the best games I personally have ever watched, and that was only less than 3 years ago. Messi lifting the trophy, Mbappe scoring a hat-trick, that whole World Cup was full of iconic moments, as is the case with the many other World Cups and tournaments before this. Madrid's Champions League run in 2022, comeback after comeback after comeback. Even as a Chelsea fan, that one game still haunts me today. You just knew something supernatural was happening and nothing could be stopped once Ancelotti raised the eyebrow. Liverpool vs Barcelona at Anfield, an iconic match that has gone down in history as one of the best comebacks of all time. We all know and remember the line.
Liverpool 3-0. Corner taken quickly, Origi! Yeah!
Even neutrals lost their minds. Moments like that prove the magic hasn't disappeared. It just shows up less, or maybe we're just worse at noticing it. Because in the past, those moments became part of who you were. You talked about them at school, at work with your mates for years. You'd rewatch them on YouTube again and again because they meant something. Now you're overloaded with short form content on platforms like TikTok and YouTube that no matter how good the goal or skill is, you'll just swipe past it and forget it even happened. It's not just that the moments are shorter, it's that we're always chasing the next one. A goal that would have gone viral for weeks back in 2010, now it disappears in 10 seconds because we simply scroll past and move on to the next thing. But to be fair, social media hasn't been all bad for football. There's now a whole generation of fans who've become digital storytellers. Some of the edits and montages on TikTok feel more cinematic than the actual matches. They capture the emotion, the nostalgia, the feeling in ways that traditional media doesn't. And in some ways, that's become the new way to relive football's magic. But even with that, it's clear we've become less sensitive to the beauty of the game. Because when you're constantly stimulated, constantly swiping, then nothing hits quite the same. The emotion doesn't sink in, it fades quicker, and that's the trade-off. So yeah, the game still gives us greatness, but it doesn't stay with us like it used to. And if that's the case, quality is still there, but the feeling isn't, then maybe we've already lived through the best football we'll ever feel. So has football actually peaked? Maybe the game peaked when the 2002 Brazil team was in full flow. Maybe it peaked again when Messi lifted the World Cup. And maybe 10 years from now, some kid will say their peak was watching someone like Lamine Yamal running the game for Barcelona. The thing is, football is always changing, and our relationship with it changes too. We'll always have our own individual moments we can pick out as the peak of football, and it usually boils down to your age and what really stuck with you. It's hard to completely fall out of love with football. It's more likely that you might just start finding yourself loving it differently. The game hasn't really lost its magic, it's just stopped making us feel that same way. Not because it got worse, but because we changed. because life moved on and we got older. To answer the question, it depends on what you value most. If it's speed, tactics, athleticism, maybe we're still climbing. But if it's that joy and connection, then yeah, maybe we were already watching peak football and we just didn't realise it at the time. We've grown up and football has too. Sometimes we wish it hadn't. So now I want to ask you, when did football feel like a peak for you? Was it a certain game, a certain player? Drop it in the comments. I want to know when you fell in love with the game and if you still feel the same way. Because maybe that's what we're really chasing. Not even better football, just a chance to feel that nostalgic feeling once again.